What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. This is the top 5 brews for Dominaria United, and bringing you number 4 here. So we still got 3 more after this one. Today we're looking at standard UR prowess type deck. I say prowess, it's not exactly prowess, but each time you cast a spell, you get some triggered effect, and so yeah, basically similar to prowess. And the point of the deck is to kind of have these evasive creatures, these flyers, these guys with trample, and you have some protection spells, you have some removal spells, you have some draw spells, and you want to just kind of do like a big finisher turn, maybe towards the middle of the game, where you pump all your guys and you swing in and just win the game. So we'll have to see how this shapes up in the meta. Like, if it's really aggressive, you might have to switch some of the cards out a little bit, or if it's really controlling meta, then you might also have to switch to have more protection spells, stuff like that. So I went ahead and I made this a best of 3 also, because I feel like this is one of the kind of decks that it's hard to make it a middle ground where it's good against both archetypes. So you have to probably be better in best of 3, where you can kind of switch the deck up a little bit depending on the matchup. But anyway, let's take a look at the deck, see what the cards choices are, and kind of how everything works together and the synergies. So the main cards that really kind of make this deck are this one, Electrostatic Infantry. So it's a 2 mana 1/2 with trample, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you put a +1/+1 counter on this card. So it's not just prowess where it's temporary, it's a counter, so it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger the more you cast stuff. And so to go along with that, we have some things like Slip Out the Back, which is protection and gives it a counter as well. We have some Make Disappear, which is protection and a counter spell, and then you know, some standard removals and draws and stuff to keep growing this creature, protect it, not let the opponent remove it early on, that kind of stuff. And if you know, if they don't have the right removal right away either, it's going to be hard for them to kill it. Like if you play it on turn 3 with like 1 mana up, maybe they try to shock it or play with fire it, and then you cast something like a draw spell and make it a 2/3. So definitely they'll have to be smart when playing against this deck in order to win. Alright, and then for the other creatures, we have Balmor, Battle Mage Captain. So this one is pretty good, but unfortunately it's a legendary creature, so I went ahead and reduced it to 3 copies. Could still see having 4 in there. We'll have to see how it plays out in the games to know for sure, but what does this card do? So it's a flying 1/3, so that's already pretty decent. A little low on the power, but flying and 1/3 is good. And then whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, creatures you control get +1 and trample until end of turn. And notice this doesn't happen only once per turn. So if you play this on, maybe you play like a 1-drop and a 2-drop, or maybe this is your 2-drop and then you play something, you on your turn 3 you could cast like 3 spells, pump everything 3 power and trample, and swing in for quite a bit of damage. So there's potential to, I could see even like bursting someone down on turn 4 with this, because if this survives to turn 4 and you have at least one other creature on the field, like your Electrostatic Infantry guy or the Djinn or something like that, then you cast a couple Play with Fires, maybe a couple Considers, stuff like that, and all your guys are going to be just massive with trample, and yeah, that's going to be game right there. So those 2 are really powerful in this deck. I've also added the Haughty Djinn because its power scales with the instants and sorceries in your graveyard, and it makes some of your spells cheaper to cast, though most of the cards in this deck are pretty cheap. I guess the main benefit is Lightning Strike will be 1 mana, which is nice. And one big problem with like Crackling Drake in the old Ravnica Allegiance block was that, you know, it would come down and yeah, you draw a card or whatever, but they might kill it or something. think there was another 3 mana Drake that did a similar thing, but they would always kill it, right? So for the 1-drop I've included Rabbit Battery so that potentially you could drop this on turn 4, equip the haste, and swing in for like 6 damage, something like that, depending on how many instants and sorceries are in your graveyard. So that's kind of the plan there. Also, you can Rabbit Battery one of your other creatures as well, like your Balmor, something like that, to swing in with some hasty flying damage. And yeah, I don't know if it's even like turn 4, turn 5, you could do like Balmor plus Rabbit Battery plus 2 spells, and then, or I guess 1 spell, whatever. But you know what I'm saying. Like you can pump the squad and have hasty creatures swinging in for quite a bit of flying damage. So yeah, it seems pretty good. The main thing you might struggle with this base deck is like aggro opponents, which are you're gonna have to try to like either outpace or remove their creatures. So that's why we got the 4 Play with Fires, 4 Lightning Strikes to try to help you remove them if you need to, while still making your guys bigger. And a lot of your creatures have like 3 or 4 toughness, so they're gonna be pretty resilient against a lot of aggro decks, but yeah, it's still gonna be a tricky fight there. And included a couple like spicy cards, like just for fun. They seem pretty good, but maybe you'll cut them later depending on how well they play out. So Jaya, Fiery Negotiator, she makes prowess creatures with their plus. Her minus gets you cards off the top of your deck, and her -2 can also be removal if you're kind of desperate for that. So definitely works well in the deck. 4 mana though, so we'll see. But yeah, it fits in the deck quite well. And then Alchemist Gambit. This card hasn't seen a lot of play, but the fact that it can give you an extra turn can be kind of game breaking at that point. So 3 mana, you get an extra turn after this, but after the second extra turn you lose the game. So basically you got 1 more turn after you cast this to try to kill everything and win. But because everything triggers off of you casting spells, casting this is going to give you a trigger, make your Electrostatic Infantry bigger, make your Djinn bigger, maybe even make your Ledger Shredder bigger, stuff like that. And then you take an extra turn and you can do it again, right? You can cast a bunch of weenie spells on the second turn to make everything really big. So potentially could be really good in the deck. Wanted to try it out, so we got 1 of there. You don't want to cast that early, of course, because it'll just make you lose the game. So yeah, 1 of in there to try to finish off the game. And as I mentioned, we got the sideboard against the other matchups. So I think the base deck by itself is probably pretty decent against control, just in general, because you got hasty creatures, you got some like protection here, you have a planeswalker, which is a little bit harder to remove, stuff like that. So I think mostly what you want is cards for the aggro matchups. So for the aggro matchups, we got Flame Discharge, which does extra 2 damage when you have modified creatures, which a lot of these are modified. Electrostatic, Ledger Shredder, if you equip the Rabbit Battery, it's modified now, so easy ways to get modified creatures, so that's good. We also have the Smoldering Egg, pretty good against aggro decks, with the 0/4 body on turn 2, and once it flips into the dragon, you can remove anything really easily. So that's good against aggro. We've got a few Strangles to kill off those creatures. We've got a few Tolarian Geysers to bounce and draw you cards, and then even the Tolarian Terror, so you can have a big 5/5 with Ward 2 body. Gonna make it hard for any aggro opponent to remove your creature. And since you have so many instant sorceries, it should be pretty cheap to cast that down. So you kind of switch the roles when you're against an aggro opponent. You want to be more of the controlling deck, more the mid-range controlling deck. So you'll bring in these bigger creatures to kind of do that against them. And then against control, we still have a few cards to bring in. So we got 1 more of the Slip Out the Backs. We got a couple Spell Pierces. We have the Jaya, Fiery Negotiator, just another sticky planeswalker that's harder to remove, and You could even bring in maybe some Strangles or something if you want to. But those are the main ones to bring in: the Jaya, the Protection, and the Spell Pierces. Anyway, that's the deck. So standard UR prowess, this best of 3 version, and yeah, look forward to the next 3 in the coming days, and hope you're all as excited for Dominaria United as I am. Can't wait. This set looks really sweet. Lots of sweet cards that just fit into some really unique and cool decks that we haven't seen in a while, or ever. Some of them are really just completely new. So yeah, looks great, and that'll be it for this video. So until next time, see ya.